of the viewers. I am your host, Bezaleth, and here we cover tutorials and entertaining content related to the Chosen One, Blender.
Amen.
Amen. Let's get into it.
When you're a new artist, it can be hard to figure out how to improve your work. My advice is to identify the most glaring issues and keep iterating until you get to a point you're satisfied with. So in the case of my model, I'm going to begin with the face. The issues with it right now is the eyes have a lot of flatness with a weak profile. I also want to neutralize the expression and prepare this as if it was for animation industry standard. So I've drawn a profile ahead of time using some references. I'm not trying to match them exactly, I'm just using them for anatomical reference.
Yeah, you scrubs. Out there thinking you can make stuff without references. Get your dang references, people.
Right, yeah, so anyway, references are good, definitely use those. So in terms of where to start, personally, I like to begin with the eyes first.
Grant us eyes.
Do you hear our prayers? So in general, when you're modeling faces, you want to place the eye sphere in the head pretty early because it really guides the modeling in this entire area of the face and how it's going to develop. General things to consider when doing this are your front and side profiles, ensuring you get nice shapes in both. Keep in mind where the corners of the eyes fall too, because that's where your blinks will be. You want to have an even number on the upper and lower lid. The amount can vary by the studio, but it's pretty typical to have anywhere between 16 to 32 loops for the final model. The trick I'm using to speed up the process of lining up the verts around curved surfaces, such as these eyelids, is the Loop Tools add-on, which is native to Blender. Select a line of verts and click Relax to smooth their points without losing volume. I also like to use Mark Sharp or other edge marking methods to visually keep track of your important loops more easily. I marked a seam to define where the brow will sit. You generally want to have the eye itself be concentric loops, with the loops of the brow sitting on top of those. The brow loops will run across the forehead and around the temples. To help guide the proper loops of your face topology, I suggest always marking them with another color. We have proper eye loops now, but let's get the mouth area to do the same. I also want to close the mouth and straighten the lips. Animation rigs will always have the mouth as neutral as possible, favoring a straight line. Like with the eyes, you also want concentric loops around the mouth. To neutralize the corner of the mouth, I like to take the innermost loop and flatten it using S, Z, and 0 on the numpad. Now let's establish the loop that runs around the entire face. Consider if you were wearing a face mask that went over your forehead, around your cheeks, and to the bottom of your chin. That should be your loop for most characters. With the eye loops established and the loop around the top of the nose to the bottom of the mouth in place, it's easier to finish the nose. Those loops give us clear guidelines on how much topology to use in the nose and what direction the loops should run. With all those loops established, we can finally start to work out the trickiest areas of the face topology, which is the cheek upper lip areas that connect through those loops. Right now I'm just experimenting with how many loops I think I'll need, being aware that if I add more they will have to travel into the eye or across the cheek, to respect the eye loops we don't want to break. The objective while doing this is to minimize the amount of reroutes or cuts you do to the flow and position stars away from areas of high deformation. This part is tricky, so if you get stuck, don't be discouraged. You don't have to have the final topology figured out right away. Take a break and move on to another part. At this point, I'm doing general cleanup and improving the shape of the neck. Keep in mind the back of the neck ends higher than the front. A good trick for smoothing out large curved surfaces, like the back of the head, is to grab the whole thing, vertex smooth it, scale it up uniformly, and then smooth some more. This will allow you to smooth it out, but maintain your volume. To do a similar thing in a different way, you can also enable parallel relax with the Loop Tools add-on, but be aware if the mirror modifier is enabled, that function does not work. At this point, I'm going to keep cleaning up the inside of the mouth, also referred to as the mouth bag. Try to maintain smooth curves from the outside of the lips to the inside of the mouth. Pull the lip topology together slightly, so when the mesh is smoothed, the lips do not have a gap between them in their default pose. So one very important and constantly overlooked loop is the one that travels out the corner of the mouth and around the back of the head. Pretty consistently, riggers I've worked with have always preferred this line to be as straight as possible, and if we do that, the cheeks also make more sense. This is another good use of marking to visually track that loop and ensure we do that. Another thing that is often missed is having enough loops in the forehead. Riggers will generally prefer this area be very dense for maximum control. So pull those forehead loops down to condense that space. Any redirects or cuts you want to do above the eyes should be happening on the top of the head or the back. Avoid these shapes in the forehead area. Now I'm going to finesse the loops that travel around the face and the general head topology. We can now build out the area the ear will be in because the density of the head is relatively finalized. For positioning, remember that ears at their highest point will come up to around eye level and their lowest point is generally around the bottom of the nose. I like to delete a chunk of faces where I want the ear to be and then relax that whole into a circle form. With the ear hole in position, I can build out the jaw form and continue to finesse. So now for the ear, which is a complex form, but it is easier to tackle if we build it from the outside in. Normally animation ears are a lot more stylized and not so realistic, but I'm going more realistic to show the full process. To start, once you've established the loops that travel around the ear, we can extrude out and rotate in. Continue to extrude and build out forms again with that outside in mentality, but be aware of how the loops travel around the ear to avoid spiraling. Sometimes it can be helpful to extrude structures out and penetrate them into the lower surface first to get the form, and then cut and merge the points after for proper topology. At this point, I'm going to finesse the nose and mouth area, redirecting loops to better spots and smoothing the curved surfaces using Relax. Remember to keep stars, redirects, or cuts away from areas of high deformation. When you finalize around the eye, make sure your loops are very smooth and even, and you have good contact with the eyeball. To finish the eye, add an extra 2 supporting loops in each corner, and add extra loops around to support a blink. Before creating the brows, make sure your topology in this area is pretty final, since we'll be using a duplication of the skin to form the brows. Select your faces, duplicate them off, separate with P, and then shape them by edge sliding so we won't lose contact with the surface. We can then put a solidify on the brows and finish shaping. For the eyelids, take that inner lid topology you've already established and duplicate it off. We can extrude it out, shape it, and then add a solidify here as well. At this point, I'm just doing some general tweaks around the face, smoothing areas out, and finalizing it before I move on to the next step. I will now create a proxy for the hair. Begin by selecting the area of the scalp where the hair grows and duplicate it off. Then I like to put a solidify on it, apply it, and delete the interior faces to get the initial hair volume. With my volume roughly set, I can start to cut in how the clumps of hair will flow together. If you're in an animation pipeline, that means this proxy hair won't be part of the final render. Despite this, it's still good to do because it helps out the groom artist by giving them information on the intention with the hair flow. If you're having trouble figuring out topology in areas where you need to cut across your previously established loops, focus on making the cuts where you need first, ignoring any n-gons or tries you make. Then create holding edges for all those cuts. Push any stars, redirects, or clips away from the holding edges. With your anchor edges, aka your cuts, supported on either side with the holding loops, it's a lot easier to start eliminating tries or n-gons at that point. To get the sharp creases between the hair folds, instead of manually beveling, I'm using the bevel modifier to keep this topology live while I continue to work. For the bangs, I'm going to utilize curves for the initial shape. You can leave it with a round profile as I'm doing, or you can preemptively load a shape for it to spawn. Now I'm going to apply my curve and smooth the hair out into strips.
Now for the finale.
I don't get it. What did you do?
Where am I?
Hello, Baff? What did you do?
No, seriously, guys, where am I? And my body? I don't have a body.
It's okay. Calm down, calm down. Baff, can you undo this, please? Like, right now?
I am like literally freaking out right now. Why don't I have a body? When am I getting a body?
I mean, I wasn't gonna make it this video. I'm sorry. Maybe a different video.
Maybe? What do you mean maybe? I need a body. I'm trying and this brain is
Wait, where are you going? Happy quiet time. It's gonna be happy quiet time. It's okay. Let's roll these credits.
This is totally not chill right now. I literally can't even handle this. I'm so excited. This is not okay. This is totally not chill right now. I literally can't even handle this.